guys, Omar here, broker and CEO of Alden Mortgage and Ome Realty. So this is kind of one of those unsettling videos, right? Because what the worst thing in the world is to have a recession talk before a recession even hits. So I've been reading a lot about recession forecasts, investors, reading new reports, especially when it comes to why is it the first time ever that we are actually anticipating that there will be a recession? Now, this hasn't happened before. Typically, they let the news run and let the news run and let the news run. But no banks actually come out and say, you know what, we're kind of going to put a little panic, a little frenzy into exactly what a recession is going to be. So in this video, we're going to talk about what investors are actually talking about, what banks are talking about as far as recession goes, and then especially since I am a real estate broker, what that means for the world of real estate. Now I was reading a couple of articles here. As soon as the first rate hike hit back in 2018, then Deutsche Bank is actually known to forecast things very, very accurately. They knew what was happening back in the day when the whole countrywide thing was happening, when the real estate market took it just went down the crapper. Now, that was completely something different. But also, this is a side note, but if you ever did watch that movie, The Big Short, which any mortgage broker, any person in real estate has seen The Big Short. The Big Short, they have this thing at the end of it, which is a little bit also unsettling, which I was like, I noticed it and I was just like, why is there like little nuances of things happening every single time to go and anticipate, to kind of buffer the whole entire expectation that there is going to be a recession. So at the end of the video, they said that there was, in 2015, they started selling something else. It's not a credit debt obligation, which was a CDO. CDOs is a thing that actually crippled the market because what they were doing is they were taking... So when we sell mortgages, we sell it to a guideline based off of the two biggest insuring bodies, which is going to be Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Those are the big boys, right? So what we were doing back in the day, and I'm guilty of it, we were all doing it, and not because we're trying to be grimy about it. It's just because if you give us the guidelines that say, hey, you know what, you could go ahead and sell a mortgage to this wholesaler, and this is all you need, that's exactly what we're going to give you. So there was, at the end of the video, there was something that was called a bespoke tranche opportunity. They were saying that they were selling it, which was kind of coinciding to what actually a CDO is, which is a credit debt obligation. Now, those credit debt obligation, those tranches, they were taking all these mortgage-backed securities, and then they were putting it into, they're putting it into one little category, and then they were selling it in the secondary market, where people in the stock market go out and buy, sell, trade. These are bonds that you could go out and sell. Bond is just a debt. And so that's kind of what it's going. But we'll talk about the real estate part of it at the end of it. So in the wake of the interest rate hike in 2018, so back in 2018, Deutsche Bank became the first major bank to forecast a U.S. recession for the upcoming years. They didn't give an exact number of when it was going to happen, but while Deutsche Bank is the first major bank to forecast an imminent economic downturn, investors, both retail and professional, so that's the best of both worlds. It's got people on the retail side of it, and then you have those big boys that are going to go ahead and do it on, when they have the big money. Share the group's gloomy outlook. According to Bloomberg's Market Live survey conducted between March 29th and April 1st, 48% of investors expect the U.S. to fall into a recession next year. Which is going to be in 2023. Another 21% expect the downturn to happen in 2024. So there's some that say that it's going to start in 2022. Then 48% say that it's going to happen in 2023. And then 21% says, you know what, it's probably going to be the downturn over in 2024, while 15% of the 525 respondents expect the recession to come early as this year. So 525 respondents, which only accounts for 15%, are expecting it to happen in 2022. Honestly, I don't think it's going to happen in 2022. We're still holding strong. Eviction moratoriums are still holding some of the people to go out and evict people out. Like, for instance, in Alameda County up in the Bay Area. And, California is a big driving market. We are the most heavily populated state in all the states in the United States. So if we take a big hit, then it kind of trickles around every single other person around, or every other state around. So with the pandemic is still lingering, the Russian invasion and the Ukraine putting additional pressure on already surging consumer prices, and the Chinese lockdowns potentially disrupting supply chains, the economic outlook is currently clouded by uncertainties. So yeah, obviously we are all completely uncertain because nothing has really been set in stone because everything is still kind of lingering around. So I forecasted beforehand that we will not know the exact place that we will be until the final few rate hikes kick in. Eviction moratorium completely comes to an end in all states, all counties, everywhere. There's no more like, oh, you can't evict people because of this, or you can't evict people because they say pandemic ruined their lives or whatever it is. So once all of that is said and done, then I think we're going to go ahead and get a good idea. I think we're kind of dwindling into that area right now. I think majority of counties here in California, in Texas, in New York, Florida, the big major heavily populated states, those are the states that have actually kind of lifted a lot of it in every single county. California, we're still kind of lingering up in the Bay Area. San Diego is another one of them. San Diego County, that's really taking a big hit. But once we're actually completely out of that, I predicted that there's going to be 2 quarters of a buffer, and then as soon as those 2 quarters kick off, now every single year has 4 quarters. You got your first 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, right? So once all of that is completely done and over with, then we kind of get an idea of exactly what's happening. But there's a little caveat to that, because if interest rates keep hiking up as much as they do, that is going to be very detrimental to the real estate market, which ultimately will go ahead and crash things on the other side of it. Now, why do people say that there's going to be a housing crash if interest rates go up? Because this is what happens when interest rates go ahead and increase to a point where people can't afford it, and then they start decreasing the prices of their homes to kind of compensate for the higher interest rates. Now, whenever the interest rates do take an increase for it, property values just naturally come down because people cannot afford it, because your salaries aren't going to go in and compensate for the amount that there's in inflation as far as housing market goes. And this happened the same way before. Now, once that happens, that means that it's going to slowly trickle down. So now hypothetically, your $500,000 house, your $500,000 house could be worth, let's say, $400,000. Now there is no reason for you to go ahead and stay in the house, and that's what happens to a lot of people. They're like, you know what? I cannot refinance out of this. I cannot do anything with this. I am just kind of stuck between a rock hard place. The only good thing is most of the people that actually purchased in the last 2-3 years, they bought that mortgage at such a cheap rate. They bought money at such a cheap rate that, hopefully, fingers crossed, that it does keep people in those homes. But there's another another article that is spit out by Forbes. It says people are worrying about recession with a good reason. Inflation is up, interest rates are rising, and Ukraine has hurt the global economy. Yeah, we kind of got the Ukraine thing, the lockdowns in China, the supply chain, because we kind of in the United States, we rely heavily on China products being sold here in the United States. Now, but is it as bad as the reports say that it is? Some economists also predict doom and gloom, but they do it a lot. Economists are kind of like, they're always playing it on the safe side because recession comes, and the point to their accurate forecast, ignoring many times that they cried wolf, which God knows that they have. But today, more mainstream economists are worried business leaders should take notice, but some of the press reports are not to be believed. Fortune magazine, a usually reliable source, wrote a poll from Reuters. Now, Reuters is one of those very heavily left Democratic stations. So they do tend to go more on the conservative side when it comes to the economy. They make things a lot bigger than what it is. But I think they kind of nailed it on this one. And I'm not saying, Republican or Democrat or anything like that. I'm just giving you point of views where one party is usually leans towards one view on certain things and one party usually leans on another. So don't make this a political thing, okay? I'm just stating some facts here. So a poll from Reuters conducted between April 4th and 8th found that 1 in 4 economists believe the U.S. will experience a recession this year, with the number rising from 40% over the next 24 months. This article is hugely misleading. What the Reuters piece actually said was, indeed, respondents to an additional question gave a median 1 in 4 chance of U.S. recession in the coming year, rising 40% over the next 24 years. Just to be clear, if a group of economists each asked to estimate the risk of recession, the average of the median answer is 25%. So 25% of the economists are saying, yes, we might hit a recession, but are we really going to hit a recession? I pray to God not. That's going to really, I'm 40 years of age now, just about, and doing this all over again is it's a terrible, terrible thing. But the only news that I really care about is the news that comes right out of the devil's mouth. Okay, the devil's mouth, and I'm not saying it like a bad way, like it's an expression. But as far as a mortgage broker, as far as a real estate broker, I only rely on the news that comes from, let's say, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac and what their forecasts are, because they are actually in the business of real estate, and that's what we're most concerned of. So Fannie Mae has actually done the same thing, which this one actually kind of scared me. This one actually kind of worried me. And this article went ahead and said, inflation is hitting consumers hard. With prices rising at their fastest rate in 4 decades, both the Federal Reserve and the White House have countering runaway inflation, their top economic priority, but steadily raising interest rates. But it seems that some degree of economy decline within the next 2 years is all about inevitability. So, it's gonna happen. It's just we're just playing a waiting game right now. That's exactly what's gonna happen. The biggest fears are that that a contraction in 2023 might match the impact of the Great Recession. But this isn't in 2008, and there is no one crucial economic metric that could prove to be the difference maker between a severe recession and a moderate one. The red hot U.S. housing market. In its latest economic and housing outlook report, mortgage giant Fannie Mae concedes that a soft landing for the economy, wherein inflation dissipates without forcing a significant decline in economic activity, is doubtful. But because of the housing market, a modest recession will likely be on the later half of 2023. Now, everybody in every single news station out there, every single majority of banks now, and especially a bank like Deutsche Bank is a huge bank, a massive, massive bank. They have people that just think of different things and just looking at matrices that forecast exactly what's going to happen within the next year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, the next 30 to 50 years. So you've noticed it. I've noticed it. We've all seen this. It's just the guarantee of us actually hitting a recession. Gas prices are stupid nuts now. I know every single one of you have been to the supermarkets, have been to your Walmarts, your Targets, or wherever you're at. Prices have increased on everything. How much more higher will it have to be in order for us to go ahead and cripple us as a whole? I have no idea. Will this be a Great Recession? Will this be a depression? Will this be... God help us all, because I have no idea how high that... First of all, interest rates are going to go, because if you want to go ahead and see, I'll go ahead and put a link somewhere up here that shows the interest rates. You could kind of see gradually each video that I post, keep tabs on mortgage rates, how they're just creeping and creeping and creeping. Now, we're totally anticipating that it's going to be somewhere in the 6s, which if you are in the 6s, God bless it, it's going to... The difference, let's say, for instance, a hypothetical, okay? A 3.5% interest rate opposed to a 6.5% interest rate on a $750,000 mortgage with your down payment at 10% is almost $500,000 difference. Let that kind of sink in, okay? A $500,000 difference that you are paying over 360 months, which is a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. That is insane. That is so much. That is the equivalent of, that's a $1,300 a month mortgage payment difference if you take it over the course of your 360 months on a 30-year conventional. That is so astronomically high. That is the difference between you being able to afford a house and you being able to not afford a house at all and having to wait until we either home prices come down or interest rates going down, which we know interest rates aren't coming down for quite some time right now. Now, the reason why I give mortgages as a big thing, well, not only because I'm a mortgage broker, is because when we are in the world of mortgaging, we do not calculate your total net income. So get that out of the way. We don't care about your net income. We care about your gross income. This is before taxes. This is before anything. So even though you are, let's say, bringing in I don't know, you're making $120,000 a year. Let's say $120,000 a year. Your monthly gross income is going to be $10,000. $10,000 after tax and everything is taken out, your 401k, Medicare, Social Security, and all that is taken out. Let's say you're bringing home like $7,000 a month, hypothetically speaking, right? Then after we go ahead and calculate that, if you are buying a house for, like, let's say here in California, Orange County just hit the average house medium of $1 million. A lot, but let's go ahead and do the $600,000-$700,000 for argument's sake. That's $4,300 a month that you are going to go out and have to pay in a mortgage payment. $4,300, which ends up giving you almost nothing. You get a couple of grand after car payment, credit cards, utilities, running costs as far as maintenance goes and keeping a house. You're left with pennies on the dollar, and that is if you make $120,000 a month. Something's got to break. Something's got to happen. Well, I guess what they say is that, you know, the recession is inevitable. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. You know, Deutsche Bank is the first bank to forecast a U.S. recession. Now, this is according to CNN Business. The Federal Reserve's fight against inflation will spark a recession in the United States that begins late next year, Deutsche Bank warned on Tuesday. This is a freaking warning that they're putting out that's saying, listen, this is what's going to happen. It's going to happen because, A, let's go ahead and take some facts. No speculation, no nothing. Facts. We printed a bunch of money. Way more money. We almost tripled our deficit in the last 3 years. That's a fact. We have just annihilated certain things when it comes to inflation and cost of goods. That is a fact. Cost of goods have gone up. Gas has gone up. Everything has gone up. These are all facts. At what point does it come to a point where people are saying, you know what, we cannot afford this anymore, and people just kind of, because you still have to live your life. So if everything is increasing, let's take that $120,000 a year salary again. If you're making $120,000 a year, $7,000 take home every single month, and you have a $4,000 mortgage payment, $3,000 left over, after your car payments, food, and all that other stuff, you're like, you have nothing. You're broke. You are completely broke. You have not a cent. It was $700 a week? 7, 14, 21, 28. So just about $700 and $725 every single week to go ahead and, you know, to live as a residual, and then you take away your car payments, you take away your utilities, you take away all of that. And then on top of that, everything in the world is increasing in price to a point where, you know, your $120,000 income is meaningless. It's nothing. It is pennies on the dollar. Let's just pray that, you know, nothing bad happens and everything is good. But the way that everything is happening, the way that, you know, the news is just feeding us into it, the way that economists are all actually kind of like on the 50% is a huge number of investors, economists. A bank, let that sink, just listen to me for a second. A bank, Deutsche Bank, one of the biggest investment banks out there, is saying that we are going to hit a recession. It's going to happen. Just hope that it's not a depression and it's just a recession. We could handle a recession. A depression is going to I don't know. Well, for up to 50% commission rebate on your next real estate purchase, 0% listing fee on selling your current home or any mortgaging assistance, link in the description below. I gotta stop watching the news. I gotta stop reading all of this stuff. This is a crap out. Well, until next video, guys. I really appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, comment, all that. I'll keep you up to date on new news that comes out. And until next video, see you guys later.